guys, it's James from Team Calamity here. Before I show you the winning deck list from the regional at Athena games in Norwich, I just wanted to say a few thank yous. The first thank you I want to actually give is to my teammate Brett. He went 6-0 in the event and got paired against me in top 8 on the quarterfinals. And unfortunately it's a very bad matchup for him. He did lose, and you know, he was quite bitter about it because he'd just gone 6-0, but he took it in his stride. And I just want to say thank you because he wished me well going into the semi-finals and the final, and stuck by me. And I also want to say thank you to the rest of Team Calamity, including the shop owner Eric and also the teammates who were with me at the regional. They supported me throughout, kept me going, kept me laughing, and were there by my side during the final. And the final people I want to thank is, first of all, is Joseph from Joseph Here Gaming for the ideas that he gave me. You'll notice when I show you the deck list, some of his ideas come through. And the last person is Gustav from Macro Reactor Gaming. He was always available to speak to me if I needed some advice or a ruling check before the event. So yeah, big thank you to him. It's been great. Cool, so the actual day itself was extremely well run. I believe there was some glitches with the tournament software to begin with because it didn't allow to be registered for over 36 players and we had 41. So I'm not quite sure how they got around that, but they did. But yeah, it was really good fun. It was really well run. In terms of my matchups for the day, round 1 was Ice Lightning. I lost due to Vayne being a thing. Which kind of put me on a little bit of a tilt at the start of the day. Nobody likes to lose round 1. Round 2, I faced against Mono Water. It was kind of like Control. It was Ultimecia, it had Rare Cecil. I did struggle a little bit against it because Rare Cecil just kept redirecting. Well, it was going to redirect my bits. Luckily I topped a Cloud of Darkness and cleared the board up and was able to go from there. Round 3 was against Archfiend Golbez. Unfortunately his deck really never got going. He dropped an early Legendary Emperor, but it got bounced back to hand from a Leviathan off the EX and he never really recovered from it. The next round was versus a lovely lady, but I cannot remember what she's actually playing. Round 5 was against Firewater, the same gent who was in the semi-final. I got into 6 points quite early on. However, he did claw it back because there was multiple times in that matchup where all I needed was a Leviathan to win. I already had Hero Una on board, so I'd use that. But unfortunately, all 3 of them were in the bottom 7 cards of my deck, so I never actually saw them. It happens. And the final match was against Mono Lightning. I was prepared for this matchup. Unfortunately he did misplay because he played a Opus 2 Black Mage to reduce my Vincent's power with Legendary Cecil on board and then tried to finish it off with Fusuya, completely forgetting the damage negation ability from Cecil, so he ended up just taking a point of damage for nothing and losing as a result. The top 8 then was called. I just slipped in at 8th place and was paired against my teammate Brett. Yeah, it was unfortunately a quick game. You know, the deck started up really aggressive. I dropped Legendary Cecil as early as turn 2 and he never really got kind of set up. He attempted to 7-drop Odin it and I had the Titan for it. It just kind of, yeah, it didn't work out for him, but bless him, he took it in his stride. The semi-final was against the Firewater that I'd lost in the previous rounds and it was an extremely hard fought match. It was going back and forth. There was times where I thought I had it, and he ended up ferrying his Emperor Zande twice. And then finally I managed to get that point of damage through. But yeah, very, very hard fought. And then the final was against Lightning Ice Mannequins. I've never opened with a hand so bad. I believe there is a recording of the final that has been uploaded. I was forced to drop Rare Cecil on turn 1 with no backup and yeah, kind of go from there. And fortunately it worked out. The draws kind of corrected themselves. But But yeah, it was a really good game. I enjoyed playing it, and I will see Joshua at Nationals. So the next thing, obviously, is to show you the deck itself. And while I'm showing you the deck, I'll kind of explain my card choices and kind of how everything worked out and kind of if I change anything. Okay guys, now on to the deck profile itself. So, first up, we have this free Syrupy. Now, a common theme that you'll see in this deck there is that I value consistency over most things. So this is why I decided to max out on Syrupy. Some people prefer to use 1, some people prefer to use 2. I decided to go out for 3 because I have so many good targets to pick up with it. I have Vincent, I have Warrior of Light, and I also have Legendary Gabramp for the late game, which I'll kind of explain in a moment. It's really handy off the EX trigger as well, especially when you're behind. It means that you can discard things like Cloud of Darkness really early and still pick it up if you need it. It's just a really good card. Sometimes you don't want to play it because your opponent has something on board that you don't want them to get extra copies of. So it's not great all the time, but at worst, you know, you can just discard it for F crystal points. So, next, out of the way, is free Ash. Now, a lot of people don't think much of this card. I really rate it, mainly because of the fire matchup and also the lightning matchup especially. The reason why the lightning matchup is because they cannot successfully Alcid and Onion Knight combo this. It would just become too big. It would become 13,000, whereas Alcid and Onion Knight can only deal 11,000 because it's having to target her twice. So it's quite handy. It's also quite handy that she can activate herself. It means that if you're under play from Ultimecia or you've attacked, you can reactivate her and then block and then use a pump spell on her. She's really solid. The fact that she's 7,000 means that she can block Lan as well. I really like her. She's an all-round card. You know, does everything you want her to do. She's got a nice special as well if you ever need it to bump her up for another 2k and give her first strike. The next thing is, I decided not to play Light Cloud and use this card instead. Now the reason why I decided to use Light Warrior of Light is because of its damage reduction ability. It means that again it's Alcid and Onion Knight proof because it would only do 7,000 together, so he'd still be alive. The Bitter End special as well is also quite relevant because even if they destroy him on the stack with, say, Odin, it will still do the 8,000 damage, or Leviathan for that matter. It just checks its power at the point that it last knows. So there is no real way to stop it once it's gone off. It's also quite handy when you're blocking something like Emperor Zande, because Emperor Zande can only do 7,000 to it. So when you have Minwoo on board, it's quite handy because Emperor Zande cannot actually get rid of it. It would need a little bit more to actually finish it off. Okay. The next thing up, Legendary Vincent. Card kind of speaks for itself in a way. Cannot be broken by abilities or summons, so it's Odin proof, it's Edea proof. It can still be damaged by burn spells, which is why you really need to have either a pump spell, a Titan, Legendary Cecil or Minwoo on board to protect him. Putting him down generally isn't enough. He'll get burned off. So you can't just put him down on his own. Death penalty, extremely relevant. A lot of people will just generally stop, you know, having forwards that add up to 7 on board. So sometimes you just generally don't get it off. But it is, you know, reasonably good as a threat. But yeah, the fact that this plus Warrior of Light, sorry, not Warrior of Light, Legendary Cecil or Minwoo is a massive threat versus Lightning. They cannot get rid of it easily whatsoever. Next thing that I come to is free Legendary Cecil. Now, I went into this tournament knowing that I was going to face a lot of fire and lightning, and this card, early game against lightning, causes them such a headache. The only way they have to get rid of this in early game is 7-drop Odin. I do play Titans, so I can stop that as well. The only thing that you need to do is be able to protect this card. A lot of times what they'll do is try to party attack in and ram, so you need to have Golem, you need to have Monk to boost its power to 12,000, or you need to have Titan, just something to protect it. If you put it out alone, generally you're going to regret it basically. But the fact that it gives all of your forwards 1,000 power, making Vincent 9,000, making Warrior of Light 9,000, and protects them all from Bahamut, protects them against from Al Cid, it's just a phenomenal card. It was a meta choice that I made, and I'm so glad that I did. So, which leads me on to my next card, which is just one rare Cecil. Now, you may think to yourself, why play 4 Cecil? The reason why is for the matchups that I don't play Fire and Lightning, where Legendary Cecil is not so good. So if I'm playing against Ice or Earth, I would much prefer to play this Cecil. Making them direct all of their freeze, all of their pump spells, all of their Titans to this card is worth it in itself. Again though, you have to protect it. You need to have a Titan, you need to have Golem, you need to have Monk, whatever it may be, you need to protect it. But it is only a one-off. Legendary Cecil was much better suited for the meta. It was just in case that I fought against Ice or Lightning or Earth. And yeah, it did its job on the day. Got no complaints, I am going to keep it in. The next thing is Singleton Cloud of Darkness. I am only playing one because I can pick it up with Syrupy from the break zone. Argument could be made for 2 so you see it more often, but I literally only dropped it once throughout the whole tournament. But she did her job there. Quite happy with just keeping it at 1. Nothing more that can be said, you know, just clear up the board, keep one of your big guys there. Yeah, great. The last thing, the best thing is that a card that I decided to put in right at the last minute, and that was 3 Legendary Gabranth. Now the reason I'm playing this card is mainly because I'm going to be taking an absolute ton of damage while I'm setting my backups. So I figured to myself, should I speed up my plays? No, I might as well just use the damage as a resource and be able to drop this. I dropped this as a 2-drop, I dropped it as a 3-drop. When you have it backed by Legendary Cecil as well, it's a 10,000 that cannot be burnt. It's just a really good top deck. Unfortunately, I never got to 6 damage to actually make it brave, but the fact is that you can drop such a big card for a little amount of crystal points was phenomenal. I did discard it early in most cases to play my backups, and then if I needed it, I Seraphied it back to my hand. It's a good card. Not one that most people expected, but I really rate it just because you can drop it for quite cheap. That is all of the forwards. There is 20 in total, so which brings me on to the summons. So the first thing that comes up is Free Titan. Now the reason why I played Free Titan is because I was again expecting a lot of fire and lightning. So I wanted to have protection from Odins, I wanted to have protection from Bahamut, I wanted to be able to protect my Legendary Cecil as well. The main thought behind it is if they have Emperor Xande on board and they want to just crash into my Cecil, they are going to unfortunately run into a Titan and lose their Emperor Xande, and I've still got my Cecil protecting my board. This actually did win me my game in the final because he had a first strike Emperor Xande. I Titaned when he blocked, which meant that the first strike for Xande did not work, and I ended up doing the damage and killing the Xande, which allowed me to clear the board just to attack for game. I really do rate this card. It's just protecting your stuff that's important, just stop them from getting destroyed. You know, you protect your Cecil and he will win you the game. Cool. So the next summon is Triple Golem. Again, it's protecting your forwards, it's giving them the boost. Like I say, they will generally try to party attack against your Cecil if they can. So upon the block, you will knock it up to 13,000, which generally is enough to stop them, especially against lightning, because Alcid and Onion Knight together are only 11,000, and that's generally enough to kind of stop it. It's a good utility card. The EX Burst isn't really that relevant. But yeah, it's just kind of when you need the power boost to get over things, or when your opponent is blocking, swinging and you're blocking, you give the boost to one of your guys and it usually makes them enough just to kind of survive. This with Minwoo is quite good as well. Make your guy really big, you'll take no damage, especially against an Emperor Zande as well. Just a really good card. I decided to play 3 just for consistency reasons. But yeah, so brings me on to the last summon, one of the most versatile summons in the game, Leviathan. What can I say about it? Remove your opponent's threats, bounce yours out of harm's way, anything like that. Really solid card. You know, the fact it's an EX Burst is great. Every deck that I've played since I've started the beginning of this game has used 3 Leviathan. I don't play 2-drop Una, so I am paying the 3 for it every time. There's nothing more I can say about the card. It's just an extremely versatile card to use. I am not using Hecaton Chair for a simple reason, and that I do not believe it is very good in the meta at the moment. The only targets I could possibly hit for it is Fusuya, which my deck is already pretty much built to stop anyway. And 5-drop Lulu, again for the same reasons. I do not need to stop it. I already have stuff in my forwards and my backups that would already stop it, so I decided not to bother. You know, there's no reason to Hecaton Chair a Ruban, a Shantotto, anything like that, because you're just giving your opponent the ability to replay it, and there's no point. Cool, so that is my summons. So I'm going to go up to my backups now. So the first one is 2 Machinist. Again, it's a card that a lot of people go, is it worth it? And my honest answer is yes. The reason why is because I have very little things that can stop a Larn. And I do not want a Larn chipping away at me for lots and lots of damage. There is lots of things that cause issues when they swing. Snow, for example. You've also got Tifa, 4-drop Tifa that is. There's just a lot of things that it can actually hit. Especially if your opponent uses Ammon as well to dull something. When the Ammon is dull, you can then destroy it with the Machinist. It's a good backup to have on board, because you do not have to use any resources from hand generally. If you've got 5 backups, you can just use this and crack something, destroy something, and you don't have to use any resources from hand. It's quite nice to do. The next one is 2 Astrologer. It's one of these things that if you are under Vayne and your 5-drops are not untapping, it's really nice to have. If you are using Death Penalty or Bitter End and have to tap your guy, you can untap it and then attack. You can also untap a forward in response to a swing. It's just a good all-round card to have. Really rate it. You know, it's good as a 2-of. I wouldn't play more than that though. The next one is 2 Geomancer. It's a good card. I preferred using Astrologer, but it was nice to look at my top cards so I could check for EX bursts. I could check what my top card is going to be. If I didn't like it, I'd put it on the bottom. It's just made the deck more consistent. So if I didn't need backups at that time, I'd put backups on the bottom. Yeah, it's just filtering your draws, getting your EX triggers. It was nice to have. The fact it was a 2-drop backup is nice as well. The next thing is Free Monk. Probably the best, well, one of the best Earth 2-drop backups. The fact that you can just at any point protect something on board was really good. Having this on board with Legendary Cecil meant that you were pretty set. There's not a lot of things that can get over 12,000. It was nice also to combo with Warrior of Light, because you can pay the 2 Earth, crack it, give Warrior of Light 3,000 and Brave, swing with Warrior Light and then use Bitter End before blocks. That actually won me my final, as it allowed me to remove the forward, dealing the final point of damage. This is the only one I play. I don't play the Opus 1 Monk because I believe the 2000 on its own with no Brave is not worth it. Really rate the card, wouldn't play less than 3. It's just good to just boost your backups, so boost your forwards to keep them alive. The last 2-drop is Cosmos. It's a love-hate relationship with this card. If you draw it late game when you need something to discard, it's not ideal. However, if you get it really early game, it is incredibly handy because it can tap for any colour. A lot of my cards have double weighted colours in them. So for example, Monk needs 2 earth, Ash needs 2 water, Astrologer needs 2 water. It's just really handy just because it gives anyone. That's why I use it, just because it just fixes those colours and allows me to play these double weighted abilities without having to discard stuff from my hand. The next thing is Minwoo. Now, I've decided to max him out because I knew I was going to be facing a lot of chip damage, and combo with things like Warrior of Light is incredibly handy. It meant that my stuff was surviving a lot more. When you put this and Vincent on board together against Lightning, you know, they're going to struggle to get past it. There's nothing they can do short of Cyclopsing and trying to crash one of their forwards into it. And when you just respond with either Golem or Titan to stop that from dying, you know, your opponent's not in a better position than what they were in anyway. Really rate the card. Just maxing out so you definitely see it for the majority of the games. The next thing is something I decided to add quite late into building the deck, is a Singleton Jesse. Now, you notice from my forwards list there is only one target, and that is Legendary Vincent. It just means that I am getting another Vincent for hand for death penalty, but it also, if I'm opening up a 2-drop water backup, it means I do have access to Earth, and because this stays on board, I can use it to Golem, I can use it to Titan, anything like that. It's just a handy 3-drop to have that will add Vincent to hand. There's nothing more that said to that. I wouldn't play more than one, considering Vincent is your only target. Next to is Ruban. Now, I originally only played one of this because I thought to myself, I shouldn't be taking damage while I have a forward on board. However, the more that I played against Legendary Emperor, the more I realised just how much the card hurts me, and I need to get rid of it. As well as that, Vayne. So by having this on board, well, having this in my deck, should I say, not on board, meant I had an answer to both Vayne and Legendary Emperor that's clean cut and good. As well as that, because it's an EX, if I've got something on board, they swing, they're going to lose their card. It's a very, very solid card. Really like it. Nothing more to say about it, really. Okay, and here comes a bit of inspiration from Joe, and that is triple 5-drop Una. Now, I didn't actually play any Golbez during the tournament, but the fact that this allowed you to exile your opponent's characters, meaning they cannot pick them back up with Syrupy, was incredibly good. Using this to bounce your opponent's forwards, getting the bounce off the EX trigger, very, very good. It meant that I was basically playing 6 Leviathans in my deck, and it cleared a lot of stuff out of the way. When I'm building my backups, it was nice to go into, because it meant that I was building my board while setting my opponent back. Incredibly solid, love it. Nothing more to say about it, to be honest. If you do come across Golbez, obviously this just shuts the whole thing down. It also stops Emperor Zande, stops Renoa, Legendary Renoa, from getting their abilities, anything like that. Absolutely rate the card. I'm really glad that I played 3. Okay, which brings me to my last card, and that is Double Shantotto. Originally only played 1, but it's been so incredibly good. It if your opponent overextends their board or they are in a winning board position to you, it's good just to have this reset. If you're in a late game position, there was a few times where I shantoed the board and then dropped Gabranth as a 2-drop. And when you're clearing a board and then dropping a 9,000 on, just straight after, it's incredibly good. So, as you have seen there, the lineup is 20 forwards, 9 summons and 21 backups. Some of you may say that's an incredibly large amount of backups. The reason why I did so is because I want to see them early on. I'm more than happy to get a handful of backups and then draw into my forwards later. If I found myself overdrawing on the backups at late game, I would just use them to discard just for pay for abilities, or I'd filter them to the bottom with Geomancer. It wasn't a problem. At no point did I ever get flooded with backups. I always had what I needed, forward wise and summon wise. So, that's all I can say on the matter. But I hope you've enjoyed the deck profile. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. I love making content for you guys, and I hope to bring you some more from Nationals. And that's just about it really. So thank you for watching, guys, and stay tuned.